Trappings and Trinkets Knitting Podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and this is episode 12. I just actually put out a podcast a week ago, and it just so happened that today was one of those magical summer days where my son is off at his part-time summer job, and my daughter decided to go to the pool with some friends, so I thought, as long as I'm in the house by myself, I could do a little podcasting, so that's what we're going to do. So I've got some knitting to talk about, and I've got some other things that I'll put at the end of the podcast if you're just interested in regular life type of stuff. I'll start today with the shawl that I'm wearing here. This shawl, if there is such thing as a summer shawl, because let's face it, I mean, it's like 80 degrees and really humid out today. I'm not wearing a shawl. Like, I put this on for the podcast. This is not part of my regular outfit for the day. So if you're wearing a tank top and shorts and just trying to survive, you're not wearing a shawl. But if it's a nice summer day, or if you're like going to some sort of special occasion, you might want to throw a little shawl on. So this is actually a really good option for summer because it's a pretty medium-sized shawl. It's big enough to go around your neck, but not so big that it's, covering half of your body. My favorite thing about this shawl is the little bobbles on the border. And those are crochet. So if you're a knitter, like I am, I'm a knitter, not a crocheter. Do not freak out about these bobbles. They are so easy to do. So easy. And they look super fancy because they kind of turn into little circles as you crochet them. But it's all just, like, there's no trick to them. It is really super simple. So this is actually a really good pattern for someone who would like to maybe dip their toe into crochet, but is a little nervous about doing something where like gauge matters or being consistent with your gauge matters. This is one of those things that you're just going to crochet a bunch of little strips and attach them. Like I just knotted them right onto the end here and then wove in the end. So attaching the border does take a few minutes. It's not a knitted on border, but as you can see, this is the back side and it turns out looking very nice. This was designed as part of a collection that I did 2 summers ago. I'm trying to think. I think it was 2 summers ago. It was called Color Packs and Stash Scraps, and I think it was published fall of 2015. So it's a 13 pattern collection, and every single pattern is designed to use mini skein packs. So this pack was from Miss Babs, and they are still making this mini skein set. I believe there's 6 colors in this mini skein set, but they do a lot of 5-color packs as well. So it's still available from Miss Babs, and it's nice yarn. I think it's just 100% merino or 100% wool. I don't remember if it's merino, but it has a nice feel to it. I can wear it without it being itchy, and I've got pretty sensitive skin. I really like the blue transition to gray of this color pack, and all the details on exactly what yarn this is and the color gradient name is on my project page that I'll link to in the show notes. Show notes are at trappingsandtrinkets.com. But if you're looking for a fun summer knit, because as you can see, this is a good travel knit project. This is a good laying on the beach, laying in your backyard on a lawn chair sort of knit, because it's just stockinette stitch till you get to those little bobbles, and, well, actually till you get to the border, because as you can see, there is a little something going on at the border, but it's a simple pattern. Makes really nice use of a gradient kit that you like the color of, because it really just features the color. It's not competing with any kind of texture. So I would highly recommend this for a fun summer knit and for a nice summer wear. If you need an accessory for a nice outfit, it's a good option. So this one's called the Borderline Shawl, and it's available on Ravelry. The other thing I'd like to show you today, my one finished object, is the dress that I made. So this is that black pinstripe material that has like rainbowy pinstripes, and I'm not sure how well they show up on the screen here. So they are just different rainbow color little thin stripes in the black knit fabric. So this is a stretchy fabric. And the nice thing about it was it actually stretched both ways. So I was a little, because I really wanted the stripes to be vertical, and I was a little nervous that maybe the stretch was oriented the wrong way on the fabric. But as I pulled at it, it actually stretched really well in both directions. So I was happy about that. The fabric was from Joann Fabrics. So if you go to your Joann Fabrics, maybe they'll have it there as well. I just bought it like a month ago, so they might still have it in stock if you're interested. This sundress was made in the same way as a bunch of sundresses I made last summer, and that was without a pattern, but I'm not quite as fancy as that probably makes it sound. What I did was I actually have a sundress that I mostly like the fit of. The armholes on those are a little long. If I put my phone or anything with any weight to it in the pocket, the material is so stretchy that it pulls the armholes down so my bra shows. So not a look I'm going for. So I thought I'll just use this dress as the pattern, and then make the armholes a little bit shorter so that if they do get pulled down, that it doesn't matter. But basically all I do for these sundresses is I buy, depending on the width of the fabric, if it's like a 44, 45 inch width, I'll buy 3 yards. If it's a 60-inch width, I'll buy 2 yards. So lay that fabric out on the floor or on a gigantic cutting table, and I put my dress on top of it. I pin like vertically. If you take the dress vertically and fold it in half so that you're only seeing half of the dress from the shoulder to the hem, that's what I'm pinning. And the reason I only pin half of it is because it's a knit dress, which means it's a little jiggly. It's kind of hard to to know it's in exactly the right shape that it's supposed to be in, because that material is, has so much give. So I pin half of it, I cut out that half, and then I fold it over and cut out the other half. That way I know even if the dress was not laying exactly how I wanted it to be, at least I'm cutting it out as a symmetrical pattern piece. So that's how I do that. Cut out my first piece, and then I unpin my existing dress from the fabric. Oh, by the way, when I cut it out, I cut out that armhole a little bit higher. So I think I already said that, but armhole is a little bit higher just because that's what I wanted to modify. And then I take my pattern piece that I just cut out of the new fabric, I lay it upside down so that the right side is touching the right side of the next piece of fabric that I'm going to use, and then I cut it out again. So now I have 2 identical pattern pieces that are facing in on each other, and that's another thing. You have to flip it over, because that's another thing that assures you that once you sew it so that both of the right sides are facing out, like one on the front of the dress, one in the back, that again, it's going to be symmetrical. So got your 2 pattern pieces cut out. Now on my dresses, as you can see, the back is a lot higher than the front. So this front piece started out exactly the same as the back, but I didn't want a real high neck on this. I wanted it more of a scoop neck. So what I do is I take one of those pattern pieces, I fold it in half again vertically so that shoulder is touching shoulder, hem is touching hem, and I just cut down a few inches into the neckline. So I'm making that first cut right here on the middle of the neckline, and then I unfold it, and I just kind of freehand, and if you're not real confident about this, you could use fabric chalk to draw yourself a little curved line here. So I cut up from that split, I cut up towards the shoulder, and so I'm removing like this half, like a half circle chunk of collar, or not of collar, of the neckline. And then I take that piece that I just cut out, I flip it over, so now it's laying on top of the existing fabric of this side, and I cut around it so that my neckline is just one big scoop. So there's that. I find that for me, cutting down about 4 or maybe 5 inches is a good, that's a length that I like, because it is a nice open scoop neck, keeps everybody nice and cool. I think that's a flattering neckline on most people. But it's not so low that anything's hanging out. So you might, you need to measure that on yourself to see what distance down you need to cut it, and also know in your mind that you're going to flip this over to finish the edge. You're going to need to flip it over a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch. So figure that in. If you want your finished neckline to be 5 inches deep, then you need to cut it like 4.5 inches so that when you flip that fabric over, it's going to make the neckline just a hair lower. So still don't want anything hanging out. Or maybe you do. I don't care. No judgment. So let's see. So we got the neckline cut out. So now I have 2 pieces. I have a front and obvious front because it has the lower neckline, and a back. The next thing I do is I cut out some pockets. And for me, the pockets came from the same dress. Not all sundresses have pockets, so you may need to like go buy a pattern that has pockets. They're basically, I don't know, I guess I can't really show you the shape of the pockets without showing you my underwear. But they're kind of like kidney shaped. They're straight on the side, and then they just kind of go like this, and then they go back straight. So remember that, like Kermit the Frog? Was it Kermit the Frog that went, now we're going to draw letters? So that's what a pocket looks like. So you have to cut out 4 of those because you're going to have the front and back for, well, probably both sides. I don't know. If you just want a pocket on one side, I guess you could cut out 2 of them. And then the next thing I do is pin it all together. So the first thing that I attach is do I do the shoulders first? I think I do. I think I pin the shoulders so that, and of course when I'm pinning it, I'm doing it all front to front, or right side to right side. So I'm only looking at the back side of both fabrics. So a little seam here at the shoulders, pin the sides together. For me, to place the pockets, I think I measured on my existing sundress, and I measure from the bottom of the armhole down to the top of the pocket. And for me, I want to say that's like 9 inches, but for you it might be a little bit different. And really all that means is like that's a nice distance for me to put my hands in my pockets and not feel like I'm going or not feel I'm like, oh, where are my pockets? So do that, like when you place your pockets into the fabric, or into the pinned up fabric, you just want to make sure that those pockets are in a spot where you're not searching for them. Put them in a spot that falls naturally for you to find pockets. I sew around from the armhole down, hit the top of the pocket, I sew around the pocket. Of course, you're doing this on the wrong side again. And then down the side of the dress. And then I stop my machine, I go up the side of this side, go around the pocket, go up to the armhole. And then I flip the whole thing inside out because now it's kind of a dress. Here's the thing though. The front of the dress, it's going to be a very, what's the name of that kind? Like a sheath. Is that the style of dress I'm thinking of? Like a very simple, like no seams that are giving your dress any sort of curves at all. So it's a very straight, like it is not, this dress is not shaped like your body yet. It is just shaped like a garbage bag. So if you want to make your dress fit you a little bit more like women's clothes sometimes fit, here's what you do. So this is a little deceiving because I have a belt on today. I'll show you what this dress looks like when I don't have a belt on. Okay, so it is a little bit baggier, which, I mean, for every day, like walking around the house, I love my baggy sundresses, so that's fine. I don't mind that at all. But if I turn this way, you can see that it does actually curve around my chest. So I didn't want it just to be like, blah, like hefty bag style. So the way I get this to curve, and you might be able to see the seam, let's see, it's right there. See how the lines aren't going straight down? So I have a seam right here, and I have the same thing on this side. And the way I place that seam is, again, I'm not using a pattern. What I do is I turn my dress inside out. I put it on with the front, like the front neckline has to be in the front. So then what I do is, and I'll show a picture of this as I'm talking here because I think that's going to explain it better than what I can show you here. But on the wrong side, I take the extra fabric here, and since I've already done it, there's none that's really loose here. But when you put it on, you're going to find that there's a lot of extra fabric here that if you gather it up, it makes your dress shaped more like your bust. So I take this, I pin it right here along the armhole, and then I pin it down here kind of like mid boob where you want your seam to stop. And then I do that on both sides. And then when I take the dress off, I just sew that seam right down that line. And when I turn it inside out again, it just makes these nice seams. On the inside, you're going to cut, like the fabric is now doubled over on the inside of that seam. So you're going to cut that fabric so that it, instead of being like this, it just relaxes and goes like this against the seam. That way you don't have any sort of like puffiness there. So I'll show you what this dress looks like. Well, I'll show it both ways. So I'll show you what it looks like, just how it is, and then I'll show you how I jazz it up here with a little belt. All right, so we're going to be the headless model here. So here's the dress, just as it is. And I got pockets here on the sides. So it's not super fitted or super curvy. It's just a nice loose sundress. And if I was going to wear this to any sort of like fancy occasion, and I kind of like this fabric because I feel like it really does lend itself to, if I wanted to dress this dress up, I certainly could. And I think that giving the dress more of a waist kind of makes it look a little fancier. So if I wanted to go somewhere fancy with it, I would put a little belt here, empire waist style, and that way it's still a nice loose dress. It's still very flattering, but it has a little bit more shape because of the belt. So if you want to make yourself a little sundress this summer and you have basic sewing skills, I wouldn't say I'm like a super seamstress in any stretch of the imagination, but it's not a difficult dress to make, and it only takes a few yards of fabric. So give yourself a little treat this summer and make yourself a dress. So was that dressmaking explanation like as clear as mud? Let's see. Well, let's talk works in progress. I know I talked about this one last week. Oh, hello. Hello, my dear. We're podcasting. Have you noticed that when I talk to my cats, I have to talk in an accent? I know everybody does that. You have like a voice that you use when you talk to your pets, right? Mine just happens to be British. So my 10-stitch zigzag blanket has gotten a lot bigger. It's almost a blanket. Right now I think I'm finishing up my 7th stripe, and it's going to be 10 stripes total. So add on a little bit more width. I think that when I did the math, I think it's going to end up to be about 40 inches wide, and I believe it's like 48 inches long. So I'm really happy with it. I really like it a lot. The yarn is Cascade Pacific, which is a wool acrylic blend, and I think I'm doing it on like a size 9 needle, and it's just garter stitch with some increases and decreases, and I am doing this for the Welcome Blanket Project. If you don't know what that is, please look into it. It is a fantastic idea for a charity project that is going to give these blankets to, well, it's 2 things. It's going to eventually give these blankets to refugee families, but it's also a project that is making a statement about our values of welcoming people in from other countries, because let's face it, unless you're Native American, your family came from somewhere. So this country welcomed our families when they needed it. So I think it's our responsibility to welcome other people that also need it. So this is my tiny little contribution to that idea. These blankets are going to be on display in the Smart Museum of Art, and that's at the University of Chicago. I believe that exhibit is going to begin in September. Yeah, I think. I'll put details on the website. You can look all this up on. And it's going to run through December. But get your blanket in. I'm hoping to send mine off at the end of next week with a little note about what I know of my family's immigration, and also I'm going to try to think of a couple things that I can give little pieces of advice about living in the United States. Those are the two suggestions that this group has about a little note that you can send with your blanket. And you can also they encourage you that if you want to, you can send your contact information so that whoever receives your blanket can contact you and say thank you, or, say whatever they want. And that certainly doesn't have to be like your phone number or your address. It could be your Instagram name. It could be, here's how you could send me a message on Facebook. There's ways, because I'm sure there's people that are nervous about giving their contact information to complete strangers. I totally get that. So just, think you probably have a way on the web where someone can contact you without being like on your doorstep. So you might want to do that as well. So 10-stitch zigzag blanket, going great. Pattern is good. I love the results. I'm really happy with this one. My other progress has been made, actually something I cast on yesterday. This one is called the Stormy Sky Shawl. Stormy Sky Shawl. Say that 3 times real fast. It's the Stormy Sky Shawl. I see now. I didn't realize that was a tongue twister, because I guess I haven't really said that out loud. But this is, remember that Constellate hat that I made with the little, it's kind of like a cable-y braidy thing. There was a bunch of little ones all the way up. And it was made out of that Fairy Cat Sturdy Paw yarn. This is the same yarn. My yarn shop still had one skein in stock, and I loved it so much for my hat that I was like, what I need this summer is a really bright, colorful, scarfy shawl thing. So I went and bought that yarn, and here we are. So it's got 3 different ideas going on. We've got little garter stitch sections. We have this drop stitch section, and then this is like I think they call it a yarn over stripe or something like that. But all 3 sections are very simple directions. I would say by the time I had repeated each one twice, I was doing the whole pattern by memory. So it's not a difficult pattern. For most people, you might just need to glance at it at the beginning of each section to remind yourself what you're supposed to do there. But it's coming out really nicely, and I love the color. And I think just for a little fun, I was working on this yesterday at my yarn shop's knit night. And the yarn shop owner said, like, oh, is that just a 1-color shawl? And I said, yeah. And then, I don't know, one of us was like, oh, maybe that would be fun with like a pop of color as just maybe one of the stripes. And I think that's a really fun idea. So as these rows get longer, I'm thinking like maybe not the very last garter stitch row, but maybe the one right before that. So towards the end of the shawl, one of the really long garter stitch rows, I'm thinking is going to be like bright pink, just for a little fun. I think that would break it up nicely, and also like when you're wearing it, it would be a like fun visual interest, and it wouldn't just be like you're wearing a bright neon yellowish green shawl. There would be a little extra something there to be interesting. So I like that idea. So I think I'm going to try that. Stormy Sky Shawl is what that one is. So that's all for my knitting. We let's see, June is the month that my husband and I have our anniversary in. So we did kind of a couple anniversary related things. We aren't big like gift givers with anniversaries. Like we always write each other a card, but my husband, whenever we stay in a hotel that has a king-size bed, my husband's always like, why don't we have a king-size bed at home? And I've always been like, what's wrong with the queen? Like, my parents still have a queen-size bed. And my husband and I are not big people, so I'm like, what do we need a king-size bed? But I had to agree, when we sleep in king-size beds at hotels, we're always like, this is the best thing ever. So finally, right around our anniversary, I relented. And he's probably been on this campaign for a couple of years now. So I was like, okay, let's let's go look for mattresses. If it's affordable, you know, I'm on board if we want to get a king size mattress. So we went and we did find a mattress that we liked that was not crazy expensive. But let me tell you, if you're a mattress manufacturer, here's what you need to make. This would have sold me. I would have paid extra for a mattress. Okay, here's all you need. And this is, ladies, I know you're with me. We need a mattress that has like just a thin little wall, just some sort of partition, little separator. Doesn't even need to be solid, just some sort of thing that, like, when your husband is turned toward you in the night and is breathing aggressively in your direction, that you can just push a button and then, like, bzzz, here comes the wall to block off that airflow. I know I'm not the only person that has a husband that breathes in their face. And it's not his fault. He's unconscious. I know that. But I can't believe, like, the amount of air that flows through this man's lungs must be, like, 4 times as much as the air that goes through my lungs. Because I don't breathe that aggressively, even when I'm trying to breathe aggressively. So, mattress manufacturers, we just want a little wall. Mr. President Trump, if you could build a wall in the middle of my bed, I mean, temporary. I need to take it down sometimes, but if I could, you know, just have a little partition there, I would really like that mattress. In other anniversary news, and this is actually, for some reason, like, we don't give each other anniversary gifts, but we do occasionally give each other Valentine gifts. I don't know why. But my husband, I don't know. I was looking for something in my nightstand not too long ago, and I came across these 2 little books that I had bought for Valentine's Day a while ago. And I was just going to recommend that if you are looking for something that, you know, you want to get to know your husband or wife better, or if you just want to, you know, have a little something that you can do together, this is something that I enjoy. And I think my husband seems to enjoy it too. So what I found, and there's different iterations of this sort of book, but these are 2 books. One of them says, "Do you know your husband?" And the other one is, "Do you know your wife?" So we exchange them so that I have the husband book and he has the wife book. And what this is sheets and sheets of questions about anything. So lots of different questions. Like this page is going to ask me, can he touch his elbows together behind his back? Or, since the age of 18, has he thrown water on a fully clothed person? Those are pretty weird. Here we go. If a serious fire broke out while he was at home, what object or objects would he save first? So what we do is we take about 5 questions at a time. And this is just something that we've done, you know, before bed some night. So and oh, by the way, the questions are not the same in the 2 books. So I'm answering questions about him, and he's answering totally different questions about me. So we write the answers in our little books to about 5 questions, and then we talk about them. So I'll read, like I would say to him, okay, if there was a fire in our house, what object or objects would you save first? And then he'll tell me out loud what he thinks. And then I'll read him what I wrote, and we'll see. You know, it's fun to see, does your answer match? Do you know what he would actually save? Or maybe you learn something new about him, and he learns what your perception of him is. So it's just kind of a fun. I mean, this anniversary was our 19th, and we dated for 2.5 years before we got married. So I mean, we've been together a long time, and there is a point in everybody's relationship, I think, where you're kind of like, oh, look, you're still here. You know, and not in a bad way. It's a very comfortable sort of, hey, you're still here. But you do kind of start to feel like, I really know everything about this person. Like, I'm not sure that this person can do anything to surprise me. And it is kind of fun to just, you know, find little things that maybe you didn't know. I've never thought to ask if he can touch his elbows behind his back. And that's what we found that these things are good for, is just bringing up little weird questions that you might not ask yourself, and you find out something, and you spend time together, and you're talking about each other rather than talking about, you know, the problem that you're having with a kid, or what about that phone call to customer service that one of you needs to make, or, somebody needs to take the cat to the vet, all those other things that married people talk about all the time that encompasses, maybe 80% of your relationship. You still need that other 20% where you're talking about each other and trying to keep your relationship interesting. So I would highly recommend you get little books about, questions that you can answer about each other. And then when you're doing that, do it together so that it's something you can talk about. All right. The other thing that is supposed to be on this week's podcast is the giveaway for the Fiber Fist Bumps buttons. And because I'm recording this early, I'm not going to do the giveaway drawing today. I'm still going to give the rest of the week. So I will just pop in here real quick, do a super short video to do the giveaway, which you'll see next. And I won't look like I do today because it's going to be another day in the future.
Giveaway day is here. I've got my random number generator ready, and I'm going to first pick a winner from the Ravelry thread. I ignored my first post since that was me, so I'm just doing 1 through 12, and the winner there is number 6. So the 6th person to post in that thread, 5, 6, was Carol Sumi. She says that she would pick a housework avoidance club for herself and a finished hat for her friend. So I will be sending those 2 pins to her as soon as she sends me her mailing address on Ravelry. You can just personal message me that, Carol. And then on Instagram, what's up with Instagram, people? Only 2 people entered there, so you have a really good chance if you entered on Instagram. So I don't know if I don't have people that watch this podcast that also have Instagram accounts, but anyway, it was person number 2 that won that one. So person number 2 on Instagram was Crazy Cakes. Well, Curzy Cakes. It's missing a letter there. And she wants the housework avoidance pin for both her and her friend Nancy V. So I'll be sending 2 of those pins to you, Crazy Cakes. If you can either message me your mailing address on Instagram, or you can send it to me on Ravelry. Either way, I'll get it.
And if you are looking for Fiber Fist Bumps in your area, I hope you live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, because you can go to Spun. Or I hope you live in Toronto, Ontario, because you can go to the Purple Pearl. Or if you live in the Peoria, Illinois area, you can get them at the Fiber Universe. So those are the stores that are carrying them right now, and I would love to have the store in your local town carry them too. Your yarn shop owner just needs to contact me, so you can help him or her out by giving her my website address, trappingsandtrinkets.com, or you, actually, if you give her that address, he or she can find me really easily because I have my email on there. She could leave me a comment somewhere on the website and I would see that. It really shouldn't be difficult to get to me from there. Congratulations to the Fiber Fist Bumps winners, and thank you so much for spending time with me today. I hope that you get a lot of knitting time in here in the next couple weeks, and I hope your summer's going great. And if you make yourself a sundress, I hope that I get to see a picture of it. So, I don't know, post it in the Ravelry group. Whenever I put up a podcast, I try very hard to remember to put up a thread. Like this one will say episode 12. So if you go to the Trappings and Trinkets Ravelry group, you could post a picture of your sundress in that thread. I would love to see what you come up with. So I hope you have a great couple weeks, and I'll see you later. Bye. Bye.